Thanks to Earth Rangers for that, their latest aftermath. And as we heard in our last report, Melanie is of course taking on a far larger and more dangerous challenge than any of us could have anticipated. The key thing, it would seem, is that she senses the entire series of events at the Lifestyle Center has been planned from the beginning. Very disturbing if she's correct, but also almost logical in light of the unusual revelations we've had from Carmen and Graciela in the last hour. Whatever's really going on over there, Allison, I'm confident that Melanie will get to the bottom of it, and woe betide anyone who gets in her way.
Yes, Jessica, Melanie is a force to be reckoned with, and I believe those responsible for causing the chaos over at North Terminus Lifestyle Center are about to learn just how effective she can be as a one-woman assault team.
We're in the process of trying to contact Jean down amidst the subway turmoil to warn him of Melanie's movements and the consequent expected flight of the troublemakers from the center into the subway tunnels. As soon as we're able to connect with him, we'll get him on the air. It's sure to be quite the conversation.
Indeed, Allison, and although it is perhaps a less vulnerable and dangerous location, the Surston Secure Administration Center is a true hub of frenzied activity as these various crises manifest themselves on our city. Graciela Perez has her hands full trying to make sense of the now free-flowing information flooding the SSAC, and she's on the line with us now to give us her latest synopsis. Graciela?
Jessica, it has been a harrowing time here at the SSAC, as everyone on this highly diverse team works desperately to piece together a coherent picture of this cataclysmic global emergency. And I am pleased to report their efforts have not been in vain. We believe with a fair degree of certainty that we have identified the source of our present crisis, or at least of its timing, its intensity, and its potentially disastrous outcomes. Jessica, the world is being deliberately brought to the brink by corporate entities so focused on their own profit that they are blind to the dangers their actions might result in. And now we fear that the monster has been unleashed, as it were. They have no idea how to restrain it.
That part I can believe, Graciela, but you've been carefully non-specific about the so-called corporate entities you refer to, the ones who've brought about this annihilation of our atmosphere.
And with good reason, Jessica. The team here and their global contacts are even now in frantic dialogue with the organizations in question, and we dare not release further details until that communication is complete. At the SSAC, we are left in little doubt, especially given the information flow from certain of our own WRAT reporters in the past few hours. You are, of course, free to speculate until the official sanctioning of our media announcement, but this, to me, all misses the real point entirely. We will need the cooperation of even these delinquent corporations, these short-sighted, selfishly motivated yet strangely ignorant and naive behemoths, in seeking an effective means of at least slowing, hopefully halting the disintegration of the Earth's atmospheric structure. And we all must make that our only priority.
We hear you, Graciela. And we do have some speculations of our own. I'm assuming that when the official press release is authorized, you will be one of the first to know about it. But I suspect that, given your justifiable argument, that official release may be a while in coming. Perhaps even until we've collectively found a way to, as you say, restrain the beast.
In point of fact, I suspect the true cause of our current life and death struggle with nature may never be circulated in an official way, Jessica. Assuming we all survive this, that revelation could lead to a precipitous collapse of the global economy. I think I need say no more.
We are, as always, grateful to you for your blunt yet sensitive communication of the facts, Graciela. Keep your finger on the pulse of developments, and we'll all, I'm sure, try to ensure that cooperation amongst all entities, whether it be individuals, corporations, governments, or global agencies, be maintained while we search for a way to reverse what's been begun today.
And Graciela, we will have to get back to you a little later for more, as Jean GTrack is finally on the line from the subway tunnels in the vicinity of the Surston North Terminus Lifestyle Center. Jean, what is going on down there?
Fled, we are trying to stay dark and silent in this train as the fleeing terrorists, or whatever they are, pass by us in the tunnel. They are shooting at anyone they see, but so far they have been in too big a hurry to stop and try to get into our section of the train.
They are terrified of our Melanie, the one-woman assault squad. But Jean, can you give us a clearer idea of what these people are like, or how many there are?
It's very dark out there, Vlad, and until this danger is past, we're trying to keep it that way. So I can't give you much detail on what these maniacs look like, nor how they're armed or equipped. But one thing is sure, they are carrying a lot of firepower, from projectile to energy weapons, and from the sounds of it, there are a lot of them. And now that I think of it, although they are moving as quickly past us as they can, they are not running in panic. They appear instead to be organized and retreating in a more or less orderly fashion, using very narrowly targeted and directed lights, which illuminate precious little of the passage outside as they go by. Not your average guns for hire, or amateur fanatics.
Jean, can you give us an estimate of numbers? Are we talking about a small army, or is this a fairly small band of troublemakers?
I'd say we've seen at least a dozen lights go by, Vlad, but those could each represent groups of people, so that might place the numbers closer to 30 or 40. They are using some kind of tracking system to monitor each other, from what I've heard in snatches of their dialogue. But with all the frightened citizens wandering around out there, it has certainly not been quiet, which is probably why we've managed to stay under the radar here so far, in spite of the noise you can probably hear from my fellow passengers. I can't blame them for being so scared, and for not being able to keep...
Inside, now! You're almost on us!
Shut up and stay quiet, you pathetic people. Do you all want to die?
Anyone gives away our location, you'll be the first to take it in the head. Jules, get in here!
We have just been breached.
And we've just dropped the line to Gene in the hope that he can blend into the crowd down there. But we're in contact with Melanie Ross, who's in the tunnels as well. Melanie, where are you?
Line 3 is the one they took, so that's the one I'm on. Heading southwest. Past 2 trains so far, all cleared out. At least 10 citizens gunned down in the tunnels so far.
Melanie, we believe Gene Chalkwreck is in a train just ahead of you, and it's full of citizens trying to keep alive. Terrorists have just entered the car that Gene is in. They may be planning an ambush.
Not on my watch, they're not. I'm doing full sweep at each train as I move past, scanning for weapons. These guys are not too smart on the tactics side, Ellison, carrying mostly energy guns that shine like a spotlight in the right spectral sweep. Taking out 3 trying to lay in wait for me. And I think I see your train just ahead, all brimming with people, like you said.
Try to avoid hurting any more people, Melanie. Enough have already been killed or injured because of these maniacs.
Got them in my sights, Ellison. 4th car down, glowing like a Christmas tree. Send you in a little surprise. Now we'll see what Cat dragged in, shall we? INL.
This is WRAT, AM1700 WRAT.
It's 9:30 in Sewerston. I am Jessica Henderson. And apart from the drama down in the subway tunnels below the North Terminus Lifestyle Center, here is what's happening in Sewerston.
I am Vladimir Chernakov. It seems that our WRAT reporter team is slowly unraveling the mystery surrounding the events we have experienced in Sewerston over these past hours. And this effort may eventually lead us to not only an explanation for the atmospheric turmoil in the world, but also, we hope, a way to restore some degree of balance before it is too late. WRAT's meteorologist David Burrell is, as always, ready to give us his perspective on where things stand. David.
Vlad, it is the too late part I would like to comment on, because everyone knows by now how serious the present atmospheric disaster is, and how devastating its consequences if something cannot be done to prevent it from continuing. Too late is a very relative phrase. In the current context, does it mean too late to put things back the way they were? Too late to prevent a permanent change in the atmospheric profile and our air composition? Or too late for the survival of the human race? There are many degrees of too late, and unfortunately, we are not in a position to say definitively which too late applies at this moment. But I do think we can say this. Vlad, if by some as yet unforeseen means, it were possible to restabilize the atmospheric boundary layers, it is already too late to go back to how things were. Our breathable air mix has been altered. It will not return to what it was. At the very least, new and previously unknown weather patterns, whose form we cannot predict, will be a part of our future. Subtle changes in the profile will not be resolved, to as yet unknown effect. Our world has already changed.
So at this point, it is a matter of degrees. How different, how much worse, how extensive, and how much time to differentiate between these.
In a word, Vlad, yes. I have been tapped into all the meteorological resources, discussions, and feeds that the Bureau has available, and I can safely say that even now, it is too late to go back. But to go forward, in the short term, I can certainly give a message to our listeners, both in Suriston and anywhere else people are tuning in. A sealed, atmospherically controlled environment is your only chance of survival. Within the next hour, at my best guess, there will no longer be sufficient reliable oxygen in the open air to sustain you. The temperature fluctuations may reach to a range of 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 50 Celsius within insanely short periods of time. This turmoil will produce flash storms whose nature we cannot really model, but which may cause wind gusts in the hundreds of kilometers an hour range, electrical energy discharge that are beyond anything ever recorded, and precipitation so intense that anyone exposed to it directly could be killed by that alone. I am sorry to have to communicate this message, but it needs to be said, and it needs to be heard. All your lives may depend on it. Find a safe haven. Now.
I'm Allison Forsyth. For all those listening who have now heard David's message, if you've any doubt as to his sincerity or his knowledge regarding the severity of this threat, I can personally assure you he is not to be taken lightly. For now, it is down to survival. Do what you need to, but get to safety. We will continue to do what we can to make this measure only temporary.
And as if to underline that message, we are once again in contact with our missing traffic reporter, Haley Klassen, who is, against all advice, still out there trying to help stranded citizens. Haley, the last we heard from you, it sounded like you'd been struck by a pocket of thin air. What happened?
Exactly that, Jessica. We in the hovers were all strapped in. Those on the roof felt the change and ducked inside. But Lisa, our second to last rescued passenger, was caught halfway to the building and passed out, dangling there for a good 30 to 40 seconds. I had manual control over the winch system, so the moment I let go the control lever, the motor stopped and the cable latched. Both myself and Jonas, Lisa's husband, who was still in the hover awaiting his turn, dropped unconscious as well. When we came to, Lisa was screaming in panic, and I had to shake myself awake to unreel her the remainder of the way down. The roof crew did the rest.
And your last passenger? It sounds like you're in transit again now. Did you drop off Jonas and take off again in Hoverjet 4?
Jonas was desperate to get down to Lisa's side and out of the sky. I reeled in the system and lowered him as fast as I could. And I was going to head out in search of more helpless, stranded passengers when another thought struck me. Why did Carmen, and Carmen alone, see that ship she is now on? Why was she able to land on it when other craft seemed to almost literally pass through it?
I guess we'd all been wondering the same thing to some degree, and possibly putting it down to Carmen herself. She's a kind of enigma, and we've always associated her with uncanny abilities and events. We all just figured this was another of the same.
And so with me, Jessica, until about 10 minutes ago. Jessica, I spotted a large craft moving at frightening speed across the upper emergency layer, heading northward. It fitted Carmen's description, and I am in pursuit.
I have to ask this, Haley, although I'm beginning to guess at the answer. What do you think could have caused you to see this craft like Carmen, when nobody else can see it?
Carmen said she'd commandeered a new ZTS hover. How many ZTS Falcons with Whisper Drive do you think there are in Suriston?
At the availability and the price, I'd say not many. And you think this might have something to do with you being able to see that ship? And interact with it?
It was Carmen's last report. She said she had reason to believe the ship she was on, was a ZTS product. So, maybe the most recent ZTS Vulcan models have a built-in sensor system that lets occupants see that ship.
I have an uneasy feeling about all this, Haley. You be careful up there. Have you any idea where you're headed?
Looks like it's slowing on a destination, Jessica. Surprise. We're over the North Terminus Lifestyle Center.
Haley, you've done enough for now. Don't try to approach that craft or land on it. Let's wait and see what Carmen can accomplish. And you can act as observer. Let us know what the ship does now that it's converged on what appears to be the hub of activity in Surston during this crisis.
For now, I'll wait it out, Allison. But if Carmen is in trouble, I'm moving in. I'll be monitoring the channel. Haley out.
I am still not convinced that this amazing craft, whatever it is, that seems to be able to hide in plain sight, is simply another example of advanced ZTS technology. No camouflage system in the world can allow other objects to pass through something solid. Yet both Carmen and Haley suggest they actually see this happening with this ship. What is going on?
It is certainly unsettling, Vlad. And it seems very likely that this craft is in some mysterious way connected with the atmospheric upheaval of today. Graciela implied as much. But the real question is still the same. What can we do to fix this?
And as usual, our best hope on that front is Carmen Electra and her uncanny sixth sense, which so often leads her directly to the source in any story she pursues. Graciela is carefully tracking what the world's brightest minds come up with, but in the circumstances and under the time pressures we currently have, I'll bet on instinct over logic. Carmen, do what you do.
And while the fate of the world literally hangs in the balance, there are two small enclaves of frenzied fans in this city for whom the global crisis is at most a minor annoyance. Tasha Mayfield brings us up to date on the action at our sporting venues. Tasha?
Only just in time, Jessica. We're down to the final moments in the battle of the century at the Underworld Heap, where our tail thrashers have been pounding the Osaka Oblivion for most of the game. Ghost Fabian is there to bring us the finale. Ghost, is Banshee still making history?
History and more history, Tasha. She and her squad have taken every record ever set in LiveFire and ripped it to shreds, stomped on it, and buried it for good. But the electrifying play of our tail thrashers has sparked the Osaka Oblivion to respond in kind, and the cat has been both inspirational and dominating for the Double O. Both teams have pushed into record score territory, and we have witnessed what is sure to be the match of a lifetime for all involved here tonight. Just seconds ago, the cat scored her third solo slam of the night, raising the Oblivion to 110 frags, still trailing our tail thrashers by 18.
So Banshee's held her own in spite of Cat's efforts, and kept the Thrashers in the lead. It's down to pride at this point. Give us a countdown play-by-play.
Thrashers are nowhere in sight, as they are most of the time. Cat has her team split into two groups, 3 to sweep and flush out the enemy, including herself, with Vixen and Reaper in the best ambush position I've seen used here at the Heap. 30 seconds and counting. Wait, there's movement at the north axis, upper level. A blur in the darkness. An exchange. One of the Double O, I think it's Decker, just went down. Cat's closing in with Override to her left. A blast takes Override from behind, and now Vixen and Reaper are down from nowhere. The crowd's mystified as I am. No sign of even one. Banshee appears out of a tunnel in full flight, takes out the cat's legs. She's taking her down old school, fists and elbows, weapons aside. Nobody in her squad to help her. The cat goes down. The final slam of the match goes to Banshee and the Thrashers. 28 points clear, still undefeated at the Heap, and you will never, ever see a contest like this one again. Can you tell the crowd knows it?
Never would have guessed, my friend. Disappointment, I'm sure, for the Double O and for Cat in particular, but she knew coming in here what she was facing, and Banshee did not disappoint. I don't think either Cat or the Oblivion should feel anything but pride at having held up against such dominating play.
And Tasha, to put the true icing on the cake and the crown on Banshee's head, she is helping the cat to her feet and congratulating her. Both captains smiling, raising their arms together to the adoring fans. The remaining squad members falling in behind and joining the moment. Now that is what the sport is all really about. Excellence, inspiration, and the spirit of the game.
We will let you savor the experience, Ghost, but don't forget to get back to us with post-game interviews when you can, because I know everyone in the city is going to want to hear what Banshee and Cat have to say.
I will not forget, Tasha, and the experience, as you say, is both exuberant and humbling. You will hear from our 2 stars as soon as I can fight my way out to the team dressing rooms.
And although it's not yet quite at the finale stage, the speedball match between our odious invaders and visiting Spartan Scourge at the Warren has also taken fans to a new level of adoration for their beloved team. Lena Lightning Smith is at the Warren, and I believe she has a special guest. Lena? Tasha, our invaders have been under the gun for the past 5 minutes or so as the Triple S finally managed to dig deep enough to break through the invaders' midfield wall. Lynchpin Luchenko leading the charge, and have been fighting for a clean shot on goal with a dazzling display of possession. But so far the invaders have kept their clean sheet. Rat Tail has been brilliant, stopping or deflecting at least 6 good opportunities, but it's really a defensive show with Trash and D-Bell unleashing all hell out there, flattening attackers and scattering midfielders in a blur of marauding motion. Still, it's a valiant effort by the visitors, and Trigger Chizo has been very close to unleashing her trademark stun ball several times. You can understand the frustration Shanghai's best are feeling, sitting under this humiliating 24-0 mountain and trying to earn themselves a shred of team respect. And I have a guest in the booth here who brings a very unique perspective to this situation. Oliver Zhang, our WRAT afternoon sports anchor, captained the Spartan Scourge for 15 years, but now makes his home here in Surston and is, I believe, a staunch Invaders fan. Oliver, what do you have to say about the contest here tonight?
Lena, the Triple S are facing the most impressive speedball team I have ever seen on the pitch, and I'm not surprised that even their most intense efforts have not resulted in a goal. They are coming very close, but Socket has truly molded this odious Invader squad into a force of nature, and at times it seems that they are each able to be in several places at once, like playing 2 or 3 teams at the same time. The outcome a foregone conclusion.
But as the former captain of Shanghai's team, surely you have a certain special empathy for their predicament. I can't believe you're able to entirely separate yourself from the connection you once had with this team.
I will not deny that some part of me still longs to be out there on that pitch, Lena. And there is certainly a nostalgia for me in seeing that scarlet and gold, the stylized S. And I cannot but feel a surge of pride that I once was part of that force. But this is not my Triple S, This is another team, a new team, a good team, but not my team. My team is the odious Invaders, and they are the best in the world.
So Tasha, with those emphatic words, Oliver Chang declares his loyalty to Socket and our amazing Invaders squad. And his support seems to have sparked the Invaders to give the extra push needed. They've just scored their 25th, and all the work the Triple S did to apply pressure in the last few minutes seems to have earned them very little, except maybe a little self-respect. Thanks, Lena. Oliver. This is already the biggest one-sided blowout I've ever heard of in the history of the game. Apparently, a night for record-breaking all across our city. We'll see if the Invaders can push this score into even more lofty territory by game end. In the meantime, back to you, Jessica.